let's dig a little deeper on this, because something very interesting that you talked about your experience at Sanofi, where you know you led an initiative to try and explore, can real world evidence or data in general replace a lot of things that have been done via traditional clinical trials workflow. And what I know for a fact is that you also ended up saving a lot of money for Sanofi. So talk a little bit about that. How did that happen? I'm sure it must have taken some effort, a lot of effort on your end, to also convince internal stakeholders that this actually is an equally potent way. So just walk me through, how did you sort of make that happen, and then what happened when you actually did delivered results?
So first of all, I can't take any credit before I recognize the impact of the leader of the team there, Javier Jimenez, who is one of the most, if not the most brilliant people that I have ever had the opportunity to meet. He's somebody that I consider a friend, a mentor, an advisor, and a true visionary. And Javier has always been so far ahead of his time. And the reason I went to Sanofi was that he had this vision. He had this vision that we could completely transform the way in which clinical trials were done using data. And so when I joined, there were just a handful of people in the group, and our role was really to convince the internal stakeholders that this could be valuable. Javier had done a lot of work getting the buy-in from the leadership. He'd been able to secure funding. We actually were working with Palantir. Palantir built us a program called Darwin, using their Foundry system, where we could put all of our data. We had all the Optum data. We had lots of different data sets. So we had everything at our fingertips, and we had the tools at our fingertips. And so he hired some epidemiologists to say, go and convince stakeholders that this is a good thing to do. And by the way, this was my first time realizing that I could sell. A great opportunity. And so I was given the franchise I was given at Sanofi to work with multiple sclerosis. At that point in time, Sanofi had a couple of drugs in the multiple sclerosis franchise, one of which was Aubagio, which was nearing loss of exclusivity. And when a drug nears loss of exclusivity, you have reduced funding for the research that you're able to do. And so I already had a team there who had an appetite to do more with less. And so that was a great opportunity for us to be able to think through what that looked like. And so I worked primarily at that point with the medical affairs team at Sanofi, the Aubagio medical affairs team at Sanofi, to understand what are their data gaps. So you do a data gap exercise in Pharma every year. You say, these are the data gaps, and then these are the research programs, and you identify which are the key questions that you want to do, and you put a budget amount, and the budget either gets approved or it doesn't get approved. And at that point, there was a study that was a retrospective study looking, so it was meant to be a prospective study looking at a specific outcome for this medication in a certain group of patients, potentially for label expansion opportunities. And the budget associated with it was around 9 to 10 million. And this was several years ago, so my details may be a little bit fussy, but this is the general gist of it. And so I poured my heart into this data gap analysis to look through what are the opportunities for transformation, because Javier wanted transformation. We really wanted to show how could you take something and transform it. And there was one study that they wanted to do this with, the study, the $10 million study, that I had heard about a data set being available that I thought had the right variables to be able to leverage the data instead of doing prospective data collection. And we were able to secure that data set, and we were able to find the right variables, and we had enough patients to have the right power. And so instead of us having to do a prospective study to answer this research question, we were able to do a retrospective data analysis using that data, which was really exciting because it demonstrated that you could have millions and millions of dollars in savings for
Yeah.
for real world evidence. And after that, I was put on the dupilumab dermatology franchise, and dupilumab had just been launched, and so there was a lot of research, a lot of activity. Elena Rizova, who was wonderful, she was the head of medical affairs for dermatology at Sanofi, and she was also a visionary, and she really believed in leveraging data. And she still emails me and says, "Hey Mimi, can we do some? What do you think about this? Can we use data?" And we just had a great time transforming their portfolio of research. They had lots of registries and other work they were doing, and we transformed that using data. And then other groups caught on, commercial heard about it, and R&D heard about it. And so we started working with the different stakeholders as well. Other franchises were slower to adopt. There was slow adoption in oncology, for example, and some others, but we had some really good success in dermatology and multiple sclerosis.
What would you have done differently if you had the AI tools and the models that you have access to today?
We did.
You did have
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
we
you
did.
had Palantir back then, right?
We had Palantir, and we also worked with QuantumBlack from McKinsey. I'm telling you, Javier was so far ahead of his time, the things we were doing.
Wow.
So he hired QuantumBlack and McKinsey, and we did sprints of maybe 5 or 6 different projects to think about how do you leverage ML, AI, NLP, all of the other tools that are available. I mean, we didn't have agentic AI at that point, and we didn't have some of the more advanced tools, but we were able to answer research questions using these technologies and these approaches. One example is that we did a large project looking at leveraging. We used multiple data sources. We used claims, we used EMR, we used omics, we used trial data, pulled it all together and created a cross-functional group across R&D, medical affairs, commercial, RWE, to consider the biological probability of success for different indications for dupilumab. At that point, we were looking at lots of different indications for where to go next with dupilumab. And through a series of sprints, the ML models told us, and this was in collaboration with QuantumBlack, the AI models told us which therapeutic areas would have the highest biological probability of success and which therapeutic areas wouldn't. And what's interesting is that when the clinical trials were then done, the results were very similar to what we saw with the ML models. There was one therapeutic area that we predicted would not be successful, and there were multiple that we predicted would be successful, and the clinical trial results aligned with what was predicted.
Wow. So, all right. So you were able to create a model that could predict the chances of success of a clinical trial, and you are telling me that the result it produced was almost aligned with what happened in real time.
Correct. Yep, this was in 2018, I believe.
Wow. I hope hedge funds are listening to this.
And a real shout out, it was David Champagne at QuantumBlack who was leading that team, and this was Javier's brainchild. This was where I was just getting my reps in and learning and following Javier's vision. But it was incredible what was able to be accomplished.
Wow, no, I mean this is extraordinary. You don't get to hear such case studies a lot. Thanks for sharing that.